Hi, this is Acetol. With the Returning Player event live, I'm thinking of creating a video series covering the full history of Conqueror's Blade North America, from Season 0 to now. And the real question is, do you think making this history video will bring back some of the OG players? How many of you remember Spartans typing "Au Au" on the world chat, Gaia with "Ululululu," or B tier? Hi, I'm Dreamfire. How many of you remember that? I can't remember the exact words. I used to find them annoying, but now I kind of miss them. I mean, I still hear Ming 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 Ming, so in some ways I guess that's a good thing. And with this returning player event, we might be able to get some of the OG players, and maybe we can get the game more populated. And maybe we could even revive the dead OG houses, like B tier, Spartans, Gaia, Hightower, Durandon, Unbroken, Latin Warriors and more. I don't know if you remember any of these houses. Also, if you're from a house with a long history, and you know old players who might return, drop your house name and the returning code. I believe like you can get your own returning code. I'm not really entirely sure. And I might feature them on the next video so that you can actually get some of the old OG players back. I'm still trying to figure out the format. It could be a documentary, or a cinematic film, or a bit of a mix. At the end of the day, it's a history, and I want to go into the direction of a story perhaps. I am open to all ideas, but final decisions are mine because some of the suggestions might be unrealistic or not possible for me. I have very limited resources. I'm just going to start by laying out what happened from my perspective from season 0 to 3. If any of you remember what happened from season 0 to 3, feel free to add all the details. Season 0. When Conqueror's Blade launched, the East and the West were completely separated. No Borderlands access, no contact, so each side consolidated their power before the inevitable clash. Ostaria was dominated by Spartan Legion and Spartan Phalanx. The Ungaveria had, I think, confederation of like 11 houses led by Tempest something, or maybe that was the alliance name. I can't remember the detail. Ming rose to power, crushing the coalition of smaller houses, and I was in one of those smaller houses at the time. Yellow Turban was on Ming's side. They were allies and they controlled the south area of Maoyang mostly. So after the borderland opened up, Ming and Spartans clashed. In short, Spartans won. It was a crushing defeat for Ming, but unlike Spartans, Ming was known to be toxic. And there was some internal drama that led people to leave the game or the house, and it got really worse after Legion of Ming quit the game. Players like Zuge, who was like really high level at the time, left the game. Players like Ranclass joined YT. This left Ming in a weak state. And what's left of the coalition that fought against Ming joined Spartans. Like, I joined Spartans after being crushed by Ming. And I still don't like Ming after all that, so I guess the grudge carries on many years. Yeah, so Ming was at a very weak state, and that's why Ming got crushed in my opinion. After the battle between East and West, it was like wars of many houses. There were many houses fighting for dominance. Chaos, Blackshirt, who are unbroken. Hightower was slowly rising into power. The biggest battle was happening in the Nisa. It is a village now, but back then it was a fortress. And it was a choke point that was holding the access to Osteria. And back then, you had 3 different lines to defend a fortress or a city. Any of those lines falls, the entire fortress falls. So you had to have 3 different armies defending a single fortress. And remember the Battle of Nisa being one of the critical battle between Spartans and Chaos, I believe. And Spartans were able to hold the line, and Nisa never fell. At least while the Liege Klitz, I think that was his name, was in charge. However, the Liege of Spartan left the game, and the new Liege took over, and I think a lot of veterans weren't happy with the new Liege. Forgot a lot of the details, it was like 5 years ago anyway. But it seems to me that the new Liege was doing a lot of diplomacy, and I guess the veterans didn't like it, and people started to leave Spartans, and since then Spartans fell into demise slowly until it was gone. I left Spartan to join Digital Order in YT. I think many people still remember the Defiance Alliance. I don't think it was called Defiance back then. It was called something else, I forgot. I don't exactly remember when Defiance was created. I think it was in Season 1. Correct me if I'm wrong. It was the first major superpower, so I even called it the First Empire. It was an alliance between Hightower, Unbroken, and Latin warriors. They were the dominant force. The only force that could challenge Defiance was Yellow Turbans at the time. And I do remember battling in the city of Whalewine, where Digital Order was defending against Unbroken's attack.
Again, very important to listen to us so that we can be coordinated, guys.
Pushing this wall.
There's only my pipe unit.
Take back this wall though.
Getting
Alright,
shelled really hard.
coming back to gate.
And at the time, Digital Order was the strongest power in the Yellow Turban, Radiance being in the second place. But after the Liege Ultimo, the Liege of Digital Order stepped down. I think at the end of Season 1, I think, Digital Order slowly demised in power, and a lot of the veterans left to Radiance, or they would quit the game entirely. And by around Season 3-4, Radiance became the dominant power of Yellow Turban, especially after the defense of Gaoqiang Fortress, I think. That's where they kind of gained some fame, if I'm correct. I forgot which season it was. And that is when Radiance became the dominant power of YT. And they are still carrying the flag of YT, Yellow Turbans. Like, good for them, honestly. So between Season 1 and 2, some of the other notable events are Ming was still there, but it was shadow of its former self. If you look into House Vanguard, you will see a lot of Santas, and a lot of these Santas were in Ming at the time. High Council was formed around this time too. It was alliance between Homegrown, B tier, and Black-Handed Nod. But only Homegrown remains, and Homegrown still carries the flag of High Council. Some of these OG houses are amazing. And Fuatsa, which became Gaishoch, I think that's how you say it. It's the Celtic house, very peace-loving. So a lot of these houses in Alliance were creating their own identity during this time, and some of these OG houses still carries on today. I've seen Khans a few times, but I think they're in history now. But they got the identity of a raider who can't really keep a land, but continuously raiding along the Maoyang frontier. This is when it started. And another key house was Forbidden City. It was a Chinese house that became a powerhouse. It aligned with Aiko. Aiko had a strong core in my opinion, but eventually they filled the rank with all these opportunistic players who would just join the wagon because they're the winning team, and eventually it diluted a lot of their core ranks, because a lot of the players were very toxic in my opinion, and they wanted easy wins, so they were just jumping on the wagon. But Aiko had really strong core, especially in the beginning. And like I said, I'm very biased. This is my honest opinion and perspective. Forbidden City, Aiko, and Nakoria formed Heavenly Kingdom, and eventually by Season 3 they would challenge Defiance, the First Empire. When I left Digital Order, they were declining, and eventually they demised into pages of history. So Season 3, when I joined Nakoria, Heavenly Kingdom was building up. They were growing fast, and they were now challenging Defiance. There was a huge field battle around Conqueror City. That was the capital, the Season Crown. I remember trying to counting how many field battles were there. I think it was 30 plus that I could see on my screen, but I heard it was like 50 or something like that. I don't think I've seen field battles of that size since then. At the end of the fight, Heavenly Kingdom won the capital, and Defiance was a bit shocked on how they lost their dominance, and the fight wasn't over yet. Like, Defiance took a blow, but Empires never fall so easily. It was like, oh wow, you hit me, okay, I got it, okay, now it's my turn. It was like that. So even people weren't sure if Heavenly Kingdom would secure their dominance, or it would be toppled by Defiance. But by Season 4, we find out. I don't have all the stories of other houses. just the big, and I've only showed the big picture. There are like many small stories in between. Maybe I'll cover them too. I'm not too sure, but I'm just opening up the discussion on making the videos that contains the history of Conqueror's Blade NA. We're just having the discussion for now. So feel free to join in because I want to make this history to be as accurate as I can be. Now, for Europe, I know Season 12 really well. Like, really well. And I don't know if EU communities actually want the history of... I mean, if there's, enough demand, I'll do it. I don't think there's enough demand. So, at least, I don't even know if there's going to be enough demand for the NA. But even if there isn't enough demand, I've lived through the NA, so I can write the history. But with EU, I only know Season 12. That's it. And the Season 12 is, it's the fall of Clown Fiesta. If you guys remember. Fall of Clown Fiesta. And, breaking up of the Turkish community. And then Smurf coming out after that. I guess the redemption arc of Ghost X, I think. Well, so write on the comment on the history of your house if you have a long history, and we'll just start the discussion and we'll see if if people even want to have this kind of video. If not, like, hey, that's fine. I'll make something else.
It's
No, they opened it.
I killed another one. Another unit dead. Another hero dead. Two heroes dead. 3 heroes dead.
Nice.
4 heroes dead.
Let's go.
5 heroes dead. What the fuck? Crepin's dead too. Crepin's dead too.